Here we are. We're back. Going to do a video. Don't know how long this is going to take. I'm going to be reading from an article on Substack. My wife was pointing it out to me this morning, and I was listening to it. She read it, and I was listening to it, and I says, "Okay, here we go." So here we are. This is written by a gentleman named Julian Cribb, who is an writer, journalist, and an activist, climate activist, with connections in the UK and Australia. So the only reason I'm going to cap on this particular article is because it came across my transom this morning. So once in a while I do this. It's not meant to be mean-spirited. It's just something I have to do once in a while. And then a good example like this one comes across my attention, and then, I'm sort of a siege engine. I just start taking things apart. And you could say, that's mean-spirited. No, it's not. It's not meant to be mean-spirited. What I do here is science. I do science and reality. And it's not easy to do. And there's a lot of people who do something that's a little bit simpler than science and reality. It's science adjacent. And they like to call it science communication or climate communication or something like that. They're journalists, writers, and some of them have done really great work, and some of them cut corners, and some simply repeat the work that other people are doing. And that's the kind of thing we have to watch out for. We have to watch out for people repeating other people's ideas that are not good ideas. Okay? So today this isn't a debunking video. This isn't me saying mean, ugly things about someone else's ideas. This is me taking someone else's offering in the climate activism, climate solution space and pointing out why it is not activism and why it is not a solution. And I think that's important because we do need solutions. Oh, by the way, there aren't any. That's the problem. Okay, that's the nature of the problem. We are in a dilemma. Dilemmas have no solutions. It's just your reality. You've got a dilemma now, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're just going to have to suffer through it. And I wish there were solutions. There aren't. But there is something out there that's worse than solutions, which I'll just call wishful thinking. And I've done other videos on here that wishful thinking is not going to save us, and wishful thinking and hoping for the best and, crossing your fingers and rubbing your lucky rabbit's foot, all this sort of folk wisdom or folk science is going to take us down the wrong path. So let's just look at this. This isn't folk wisdom. This isn't folk science. It's science adjacent. And I'll point out where there are some problems. So let's go straight to it. Might as well promote my book a little bit. It was 100 Days, an End of Civilization novel. The link is in the description. My novel is rapidly becoming, my fictional novel is rapidly becoming a documentary. So there you go. If you want to get a preview of coming attractions, sadly, then you should pick up my fictional novel, which is rapidly becoming nonfiction. Does that mean anything to you? I don't know. Your mileage may vary. So let's go up and look at Julian Cribb. Again, don't have a problem with the man. Don't know the man. Don't even have a problem with the article. But it is repeating some tropes that are going to be a problem for me. We are talking about Hothouse Earth, which is a bit unique in itself. And he's saying it's arriving sooner than you think. That's also unique. So this is already off to a good start. I am 100% behind this. And I may have, a lot of support for this article. And some of the things I'm going to say may seem like quibbles, but to me they're not quibbles. They're fundamental failures, okay? I'm going to read it. Let me position this a little bit better so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, now you can see. And you can read along if you want. Right there, that's my email address, catedwinson@gmail.com. So if you want to email me, you now have an address, and I don't even mind that that's on the screen. That's my professional email address, so that it's meant for communications. So let's read this. Hothouse Earth, the state of the planet in which civilization and possibly even humans can no longer survive, is arriving much faster than predicted according to new satellite data. We don't need the satellite data for this. Latest measurements, carefully analyzed to exclude anomalies such as El Nino, reveal a planet cooking up at a steady 0.48 degrees per decade. That's Celsius. Since 2015, in what is thought to be the most rapid heating event in all Earth's geological history. So the Earth has been around 4.5 billion years. There was actually a time in the Earth's very early history called the Hadean, as in Hades, and you might guess it was a very hot place. The Earth was subject to what we call bombardment by debris that was collecting in the early solar system. Most of that debris has now been swept up into planets and moons and other things, or some of it has been shoved out of the solar system, and some of the rest of it has fallen into the sun. So the interior orbits of the solar system have been pretty much swept clean, and now but early on, there was a bombardment phase, and the Earth was basically a molten rock. Well, all the inner planets that were made out of rocks were molten rocks. Since then, the Earth has been pretty stable for temperature. We did have the PETM, Paleocene, Eocene thermal maximum. Things got really hot, but it happened over a long period of time. The PETM took a long time to happen. It was a result of volcanic activity, spewing CO2 into the atmosphere. We humans, because we're so clever, we've been able to exceed the rate at which the Earth has heated, including during the PETM, since the Hadean. Okay? So we did that because we deliberately did that. We deliberately heated the Earth. We did that. We deliberately did that. We went to a lot of trouble. We went to basically all of our trouble. Nearly all of our industrialization has been geared towards specifically heating the Earth on purpose by deliberately burning fossil fuels. We did that. For economic reasons, for humanitarian reasons, for lots of reasons, we did that. And we did that faster. We are doing that faster than at any time in the Earth's geological history. Now, if you don't want to believe that, that's fine, but that's data. We did that. The new rate of warming revealed by the satellites is almost 3 times that previously measured back in 1970 to 2010, and nearly double that of the most recent decade, 2027, from the period 2015 to 2025. Now, I want to point out 0.18 degrees C from 1970 to 2010. That was one rate. That means that for each decade during that period of time, the Earth heated almost 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade. Then it jumped to about 0.27, so almost 0.3. Using round figures, okay, we went from like 0.2 to about 0.3 from 2015 to 2025. And then there was a huge jump. And we went from 0.23, okay, 0.3 degree, to almost 0.5. So we jumped from 0.2 to 0.3 and then 0.5. So what's happening is that the rate per decade of heating of the Earth is accelerating. That's what we call that. If it was always 0.2 degrees C from 1970 to now, then we would say that's the rate. But the rate is changing. And the colloquial term for changing the rate is acceleration. If you're going 25 miles an hour on the street, then you're going 25 miles an hour. That's the rate of your progress across the street, down the street. If you increase your speed from 25 to 30 to 35 to 40, that's acceleration. So we are accelerating the rate, okay, of heating of the Earth. The Earth is heating, and the rate of heating is accelerating because we're burning more fossil fuels all the time. There is other reasons too. The Earth is becoming unable to accommodate the amount of heat being generated by global heating. And also, the Earth is now contributing CO2 to the atmosphere in addition to what we are contributing, all these tremendous fires, for example, and the destruction of wetlands and the destruction of rainforests. This is all now contributing carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So all of these things together combine to accelerate the amount of warming. All right. Such an increase, so 0.5 degrees C per decade, such an increase could potentially deliver 3 degrees of average global heating by 2050. Yeah, it's just basic math. A level that will wreck the global food system, smash the economy, and kill up to half the Earth's population. Okay, this killing up to half the Earth's population is an interesting meme that's been making the rounds recently. And I'll just pull up the document. I finally found the original document. This link points to it, so this is a good source for that. This is the original document. Why'd you do that? This is the original document where they are describing how we could lose up to half the Earth's population by 2050. It comes out of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. Now, you may not know any actuaries, but I know some, and I know what they do. Actuaries are the quants. They're the mathematicians who determine risk. They work for insurance companies. I mean, that's the industry that uses actuaries the most to determine the cost of insurance policies based upon known or anticipated risks. So these people are always doing mathematical models of risk. And if you find that your homeowner's insurance or even your car insurance has gone up and it seems unfair, it may not even be you. It just could be that the actuaries are looking at the risk models and deciding that you need to pay more to offset the risk. And then they don't tell you that. That's what they're doing. They don't show you how they make the sausage. That's just what they do. And then they charge you. But that is a process. And there is math behind it. And there's physics behind it too. They understand the engineering problem behind risk. Like, how do houses burn? How do forests burn? You know, they know a lot. The actuaries work with a lot of different disciplines to determine the risk. And in this paper, Planetary Solvency, Finding Our Balance with Nature, they come up with a figure that for humanity to be in balance with nature, half of humanity must die. That they decided that 4 billion people is about it. And I think they came up with the year 2050. I may be wrong about that. I should probably look that up. But anyway, it's not a long ways down the road. It's fairly soon that we have to be at 4 billion people, not 8 billion, 4 billion by a certain time. And then we are going to be living within the balance of nature. I have to tell you, that's complete bullshit. That is not true. I've already done a lot of videos on, I just did one maybe a week ago, what the actual number is. And the actual number, surprise, surprise, is not based on mathematics. The actual number is based on biology, which is what it should be based on. So I come up with a different model than these guys do. But these guys at least came up with a number. At least they tried. And as actuaries, that's what they're supposed to do. So this is interesting, that there is now a number floating around, 4 billion people. That's it. My number is much smaller than that. Yeah, see my other work. These latest numbers render obsolete the Paris Climate Accord from 2015 and its call to keep the Earth's temperature increase below 1.5 degrees. So David Hansen gave testimony before Congress back in the early 90s, late 80s, and he said we should keep the Earth's temperature increase below 1 degree C. Okay, and he said that beyond 1, there would be really bad outcomes for humanity. Well, we went through 1. So when you go through a number, you can't say, well, we screwed up. You can't do that. That's politically unpopular. So you come up with another number. It's called moving the goalposts. So you come up with another number. Okay, then it was 1.5 coming out of Paris. But they knew. They knew they were going to exceed 1.5 also. So then they came up in advance. They come up with a second number. Well, in this case, a third. And that was 2.0. We're also going to go through 2.0. Probably we will hit 2.0 above pre-industrial baseline possibly sometime this summer, or come very close to it. And we'll exceed it permanently probably in the next 2 years or so. They'll come up with a new number, 2.5, 3. They may even jump to 4. Okay, they're already talking about how these numbers are bad. We can't exceed these numbers, and then they turn around and they exceed them anyway, and then they come up with a new one, right? These latest numbers, render obsolete the Paris Climate Accord, and it's called to keep the Earth's temperature increase below 1.5 degrees C, along with all the actions and promises made by nations worldwide so far, all of which were voluntary, none of which they did. They signal that disaster is arriving much more quickly than originally feared and will be far worse for those who have to live through it. My general observation with arriving much more quickly than expected, worse than expected, more all-encompassing than expected. This is just a theme. This has been going on now for a decade. Everything that we thought would, well, when I first heard about this, which would have been 30 years ago, we didn't think that there would be any problems really with global heating, global warming, whatever you want to call it, for 300 years. And that was 30 years ago. At about the time of the Paris Climate Accords, 2015, they were thinking, oh, well, maybe the year 2100. Okay, well, that's not 300 years, is it? That's like less than 100 years. But the year 2100. And then more recently, they start saying, well, maybe the year 2050 will have serious problems. Maybe the year 2050. So you see the trend here. And some of it is legit. Some of it is, well, we have more data. Some of it is, of course, that we are further in time, right? We go further forward. And after 30 years of saying, oh, it'll be 300 years, well, now it's 100 years, or maybe it's 50 years, or maybe it's 30. So as we get closer to the disaster, we can see it. And the disaster is therefore coming closer to us. And my estimate, meaning, where we're basically on the threshold of the end of civilization is I would say 5 years from now. So the year 2031, the year 2032, something like that. Not 2050, not 2040, 2031 or so. 5 years from now, using round figures, right? So what am I doing with this article? I am putting in context. I am fleshing out important points that I think are critical. And here's where I'm going to say something that's probably a little bit hurtful and will be far worse for those who have to live through it. That is the wrong way to put it. Okay? Unless you're thinking that the people who die don't have to live through it. I mean, if that's your solution, then we're all going to live through it. And what will happen to some of us as we are, quote unquote, living through it is it kills us. Now, that's not something anybody wants to say. We will all live through this, oops, I'm sorry, except for the people that die because of it. There were people who lived through the sinking of the Titanic, oops, except for the people who went down with the ship. Do you see? I mean, they all lived to see it, but they didn't live through it. And of course, the dark side of this kind of a statement is, for all those who have to live through it, is one expectation is that the wealthy elites, who mostly live in Europe, right, the UK, North America, the wealthy elites won't have to suffer through any of this. They'll just have their money and they'll have their privilege and they'll escape it somehow. I don't have to know how that is, but that's one thought you could have, right? So this kind of a statement, it will be far worse for those who have to live through it. Either it's all of us, or if it's not all of us, it's because a bunch of us die early on. And if it's not that, then it's because we have a lot of money, we can escape it. So there's a lot woven into that statement that really needs to be talked about. And it's not talked about here. And this happens all the time. I mean, all the time. This is not the first time I've seen this. I see this all the time, every time. It's always, well, it's going to happen to someone, but not me. And because it's going to happen to someone and not me, I don't have to care. And the elites and the wealthy don't. And because they don't, nothing changes, you see. They don't care. Doesn't affect them. They perceive that it won't affect them. It might, by the way, but their perception is that it won't. And when they talk about it among themselves, as they do, then they talk about it as, well, the poor, well, the developing world, well, third world, up and coming nations. That's what they talk about. They really think they're not going to have any problems. And because they don't think they have any problems, they don't have a problem to solve. Now, that's a mean thing to say. I just said it. And as far as I'm concerned, it's baked into the cake with that sentence. However, when El Niños are added, El Niño is the El Niño Southern Oscillation. I talk about it a lot on here. I really need to do an update on the El Niño. Look at my other videos, but you probably already know what this is about. When El Niños are added to constant global heating, Earth's temperature could reach 4 degrees by 2050, which is a true hothouse Earth, a temperature previously not expected to occur before 2100, and one which many experts fear could wreak havoc on human civilization. Hothouse Earth was first predicted in 2018 by the late Australian climatologist Will Steffen and colleagues. Okay, David Wallace Wells wrote about Hothouse Earth in his book Uninhabitable Earth some time back, actually, maybe at about this time. A very good book. I read it. You should read it too, because it was an early and somewhat accurate perspective on what it would be like. Okay, I could write a book like that. I really don't have time. The problem here is this statement that 4 degrees C above a pre-industrial baseline. Again, not 1 like James Hansen was predicting, not 1.5 like the Paris Climate Accords had an aspirational goal, not 2.0, which was their fallback goal, but 4. Okay, 4 degrees C by 2050 will wreak havoc on human civilization. That is incorrect. Well, I mean, 4 degrees C would absolutely wreak havoc on human civilization. The problem is that by the time you get to 4 degrees C, there is no human civilization, because something earlier has already wreaked havoc on human civilization. So the author here could have stated this differently. Could have stated it not as, well, 4 degrees C, which is the biggest number I can think of right now, which is basically what he's saying. This is the biggest number science can think of right now. So let's just call that the end of civilization, rather than something before that, which is more likely to be the case. We're not even at 2 degrees yet, and there are already massive problems with the way we organize ourselves on this planet. Massive problems. Certainly with extreme weather, but also we are now talking in active terms about a collapse of the food supply, the collapse of the water supply. Rivers are running dry. Continental interiors are heating up and running dry. And there's no reason to expect any of this to go away, and we haven't even hit 2. So to say that, to frame this as, well, by 2050, we could reach 4 degrees C above a pre-industrial baseline, and, well, that must be the end of civilization. To state it that way is, once again, to tell people it's not going to happen until 2050, so don't worry your pretty little head about it. And it'll be 4 degrees C, and that's hothouse Earth, but don't worry, because that's when civilization collapses. What should be said here is that by 4 degrees C, hothouse Earth, then what we really run the risk of is complete extinction of all human life on Earth. Civilization, which is not all human life on Earth, civilization will have collapsed well before that, as we are already seeing. And that's the narrative I want to bring to this discussion about so-called climate activism. Okay? And I understand that these people are not doing science, but they are communicating a narrative. And the narrative they keep communicating is, it's going to happen to someone else, not you. It's going to happen somewhere else, not here. It's going to happen sometime in the distant future, not now. And it's going to happen at some theoretical point, 4 degrees C or some other tipping point, not anything that we're experiencing right now. That's the gist of this entire thing. It's someone else, somewhere else, some other time, not now, not these situations. You're not seeing anything happening. You're fine right now. Keep doing what you do. That's the message of that entire paragraph. The world will experience a foretaste of the climate crisis to come in 2026-27 with the super El Nino now building up in the Pacific Ocean. I think we've had a taste of the climate crisis for a long time. It's just not in, I can't even say not even in Europe. The Western world has been spared the worst of this. But you can go to places like India and Pakistan, and they've been experiencing a climate crisis for 4 or 5 years now. Now it shows up in France. Now it shows up in the UK. Now it shows up in the US. And now we're saying, oh, well, maybe we'll get a foretaste of this because of El Nino. No, actually, the fires are happening now. The droughts are happening now. They have been going on for years now. The Danube is drying up, right? The Po River in Italy is drying up, or at least it was. There are rivers in the UK that are drying up. There are places on fire that have never burned before in all these places. And that's now. Oh, and the El Nino isn't really coming until December of this year. So to say that it's going to give us a foretaste, you're already in the jaws of this disaster, people. And the El Nino is still, the peak of the El Nino is still a few months out. We are already in the jaws of this disaster right now, with just conditions on the ground as they are. So this is a disservice to say that we're not already in the thick of it. We clearly are in the thick of it. You don't have to believe that. You can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. Okay? The Super El Nino now developing in the tropical Pacific has a 90% chance, guaranteed, of becoming the strongest in 150 years, breaking global temperature records and unleashing extreme weather, reports the New Scientist. Sea surface temperatures are now expected to reach a 3.6 degrees C above normal at the place where the El Nino happens. I could, do I need to do this? I could go to Google Earth right now. Well, let's just do this. Let's just do Google Earth right now. All right, here is, it's in the wrong browser. I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to do an El Nino article. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then we'll come back and we'll look at Google Earth and we'll look at the El Nino. Got some questions in the live chat. Let's take a look real quick before I continue reading. By 2050, wow, they are optimists. I give it 2035, if not earlier. Yes, you're right, Chickpea. A lot of people are going to be disappointed, as I like to say, savagely disappointed. All right. Not that that means anything. Well, oh, I'm disappointed. Well, now what? Okay, well, we could have used, if we were doing better discussion, then we could use our time that we have more effectively to do what? To prepare people? I mean, why not? We could do that. My favorite go-to example, the Titanic. They waited a long time before they started letting down the lifeboats. And by the time they started letting down the lifeboats, the ship had tilted enough that some of the lifeboats actually got caught in the rigging, and because they were coming down at an angle. And so they actually waited long enough till they couldn't even launch the lifeboats. And so we could be doing that right now. We could be doing the whole Titanic thing all over again, just waiting too long. We could be using our time more effectively to have the adult discussions, to have a change in policy, to do all the things we have to do. But we're not, because we're going to wait. Julian Cribb, environmental journalist, yes, on Substack. Julian Cribb is a British-Australian author and science writer known for his extensive contributions in the fields of science, agriculture, food, mining, energy, and the environment. Okay, lots of people are writing about the climate crisis because it is a current crisis. And as we like to say, people are going to spill ink over this. And why? Because then they get readers. And so it's fine. We are in the early days of a lot of people writing about this. And in the early days, they haven't really decided what the problem is. And this article that I am evaluating is an example of that. It's reading comments now, okay? It's the poor animals I feel sorry for. They are the innocent victims in all this. Us, shitty humans, have brought this on ourselves. Funny, I have felt London getting warmer and warmer in the winters. Yes, global heating proceeds unevenly. winters get warmer faster than summers do. Nighttime temperatures get warmer faster than daytime temperatures do. And that's weird. How could that be true? It's the same air. It's the same planet. Well, yeah, it's true. Data, okay? Also, changes at high altitudes. So the further you go up a mountain, those areas are getting hotter faster than lower altitudes. And also latitudes. So relative to the equator of the Earth, the further you get from the equator towards the poles, north and south, the further toward the pole you get, the faster it's warming. So it's not evenly distributed. To repeat, winters are getting warmer faster than summers are, although the summers are getting hot. Nighttime temperatures are getting warmer faster than daytime temperatures. Mountain elevations are getting warmer faster than lower elevations, impacting snow, for example. And higher latitudes towards the pole are getting hotter faster than lower latitudes. And these are all facts. They're not known by most people. Chickpea was just sharing an observation about warmer winters. We have definitely been having warmer winters. We had, here in the U.S., we had the warmest winter on record. Proof of that, there's hardly any snow. There's virtually no snow in the Rocky Mountains and the Sierra Nevada Mountains, our major mountain ranges. Virtually no snow. And also, we had the hottest March on record. So what little snow they did have up to then, it all melted. March was just so warm that it couldn't allow for snow. And so it all melted. And even places that got a lot of snow during the winter, a week later, they'd have a record heat wave, a winter heat wave, and melt all the snow. So we definitely are seeing evidence of the things I just described. As for the animals, this is a good point. I like to call the climate crisis, and this will get me demonetized, I'm saying, because I don't get monetized. It's actually a murder-suicide. It's not going to happen that human civilization collapses and humans go extinct and they leave and when we leave the world, the rest of the world is fine without us. No, that's not how it's going to happen, folks. That's not how it's... Sorry to break it to you. That's not how this happens. What happens first is that we keep going. We keep surviving. We innovate. We have air conditioners everywhere, air conditioners in our car, our malls, our parking structures, our schools, and we have more electricity to power the air conditioners everywhere. And we start living in air-conditioned buildings and moving between air-conditioned structures. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is just getting hot. And the animals die, and the plants die, and the rivers dry up, and the fish die, and the oceans die, and there's a huge die-off in the oceans. The oceans deoxygenate, and all around us, everything is, okay, that's murder. We're killing those things by us doing what we like to do. We just keep doing what we want to do and we murder those things. And then we die. And that's a suicide. So what's really happening here is not that the animals are suffering, we're killing the animals. No. We are potentially killing all life on Earth. But it's a murder-suicide. We murder everything else and then we die. And the idea that the Earth will be better off without us is simply absolutely categorically incorrect. Without us, by the time we're out of the picture, the rest of the world has been completely annihilated. We have lots of ways to survive that the other inhabitants of our planet have no access to. Simple as that. Let's go back to the fine article. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. Okay. Sea surface temperatures are now expected in the El Nino study region, are now expected to exceed 3.6 degrees above normal. So that's why they're calling this a super El Nino. And that's uncharted territory, folks. We don't know what that's going to be like. Yeah, the last time we had anything like that was, 1887 or something like that? I could look up the number, but it doesn't matter. A long time ago, 150 years ago, they had an El Nino similar to this one. And, really messed people up. Well, now we're back off the charts again. We're going to see what happens. We're going to learn something, folks. We're about to learn something, and we're about to learn it in, let's see. Let me check my calendar. 2 months, okay? Maybe 4. The latest numbers reinforce the calculations released by climate guru. I hate that word, climate guru. James Hansen. James Hansen is a serious scientist. What the fuck is wrong with you, Cribbs? What is wrong with you? Why'd you have to call him a guru? For fuck's sake. Gurus are people who talk out their ass. Gurus are people who hand wave about energies and vibrations and crystals. Okay, that's a guru. You save yourself through your chakras. That's a guru. James Hansen is a scientist. Why do we have to paint scientists with the guru brush? I don't get it. I don't understand. It makes me angry. It pisses me off. Obviously, it pisses me off. Why did he do that? Maybe it's because he doesn't like what James Hansen has to say. Possibility. Let's see what he has to say. The latest numbers reinforce the calculations released by climate guru James Hansen and team, who warned in 2023 that the planet was heating far faster than predicted by the IPCC and mainstream climate groups. Aha. Now we know what's got up, what hair he's got up his nose. They warned that the current amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere at equilibrium is enough to drive the planet by up to 10 degrees. Not 4, not 2, not 1.5. Current. See, people wonder why I'm so upset. People wonder why I'm such a doomer. Why I'm such a Debbie Downer. Why I'm such a Debbie. You're just such a Debbie Downer, Cougar. Can't you have any nice thoughts? Are you depressed? Maybe you should meditate, right? Maybe you should start drinking. Maybe smoke pot. Smoke bar pot. Listen, people. You want to know? You want to know what's got my undies in a bunch? Yeah, 10 degrees C. That's what. From the guru, for fuck's sake. From the guru, we get 10 degrees C. Not 4. And not 3.5. Not 2. Not 1.5. And not 1, which is what James Hansen said we had to avoid when he first gave testimony before Congress in the late 80s. He said 1 degree C above a pre-industrial baseline was anything above that was unsafe. And now with his team, 40 years later in his own life, he's saying we're going to hit 10. 10 is not survivable. 10 is not survivable. Not survivable. Won't survive. We won't survive 4. We probably won't survive 2. 10. Oh, please. Please. So, of course, he had to call him a guru. See what the guy did? You see what Cribb did? Call him a guru. No, I don't approve. What is this chart? 5 straight years warmer than anything observed before 2023. Yeah, this is a nice picture. Let me position this a little bit. Let me get my drawing tool. And let me ruin your life. Okay? You ready to have your life ruined? We have one rate of change down here. And then we had a little bit of an up in the during the war, Second World War. And then things kind of leveled out again. All right? But at a different level. And then we had this rate of change here. And then watch what happens here. This is latest data, folks. You're just going to love this shit. Watch this. Oh, no. What have we here? We have acceleration. Oh, and if we continue, which we just might, I mean, given our druthers, we would like to continue this because what a party we've been having for the last 20 years. I think this line probably goes something like this. What do you think? What do you think the line does? Well, that's what I think it does. Well, you can't. Actually, that's being a bit conservative. Hold on. Let me do a better job of that, okay? Let me do a slightly better job of that. We had this going on here, then we had this going on here, and then we had this going on here. I love this. And then we have this going on here. Let's go a little further out, and then we have this going on here. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, bitches. And you know what's on the left side of this? Over here, we got numbers, right? So what kind of numbers do we have? We have this is 2, so this is probably about 3 right here. I could use a text tool. I could type 3 right here. 3, all right. We have 2. I got that wrong. I read that wrong. 4. There we go. We have 4. And look over here. We're doing science now, baby. Look over here. If this is 2000 and this is 2025, then right about here we have 2030. And look what's happening here, boys and girls. Read 'em and weep. Okay. This line is right about here. I'm projecting down to the horizontal axis. 2025, yeah. Maybe 2030, maybe even a little less. This is what's happening, folks. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing on the planet Earth. La-dee-da. And you wonder why I'm always on here losing my shit. You wonder. Yeah. Data, people. This is what I'm dealing with all the time. This is what I'm dealing with all the time. This is my world. You can't know that. We're about to find out, Sparky. How's that? We're about to find out. You want to find out? You're going to find out. They warned the current guru, James Hansen, warned that the current amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, current amount, which is 430 parts per million, current amount. If we stop burning all fossil fuels tomorrow, we would still have the current amount. Okay? And we won't stop burning fossil fuels tomorrow. Therefore, the current amount will be more 5 years from now, because that's how that works. And the current amount, 430 parts per million, is enough to drive the planet to 10 degrees C. People don't like that. No, no, no. The climate activist community don't like that. They don't like that. They don't want that to be out there. They don't. And so all of a sudden you're a guru. Okay, you don't know anything. It's all just word salad, right? It's all just meditating on your chakras about 10 degrees C. He's just making it up. It's just word salad. No, it's not, folks. No, it isn't. And he did a better job than just me drawing lines. He did, they were doing paleoclimate data and statistical analysis, multivariate analysis. A team of mathematicians did the analysis, and they didn't drag out a drawing tool and then extend the line on a chart. They did the actual analysis, and they're coming up with 10 degrees C. And this guy, this Cribb fellow, thinks that makes James Hansen a guru. A guru, which is what we call damning with faint praise. He's a guru now. Oh, I guess I'm a guru. Cougar guru. I'm just here for your spiritual growth. Words have meaning is what I'm trying to say. Words have meaning. And if he didn't mean to damn James Hansen with faint praise, calling him a guru or a prophet or a Jesus figure or a martyr or something else stupid, instead of just calling him the leading climate scientist in the world, you're calling him a guru. If he didn't mean to imply that the man is spouting nonsense like John the Baptist, well, then don't say that. Don't call him a guru. Call him a leading climate scientist. Yeah, this chart is the end of the world. This chart is the end of the world. The end of the human world. When does civilization end? 3 years from now. This chart is the end of the world. You're looking at it. And this chart is data. These are observations. Observations, not modeling. You going to argue with a thermometer? Oh, go ahead. Everyone needs a hobby. Yeah, Zeke Housefather's climate projection for the current El Nino event. Yeah, we're in a world of hurt, people. Oh, God, by November, December. Well, you're going to find out. I don't have to predict anything. You're going to find out. It's a few months from now. You're going to find out. We're all going to find out together. The consequences for humanity will be dire, according to the UK Institute of Actuaries and Exeter University. We were just looking at their article over here. This is a big paper. You don't have to read it. The summary is good enough. Who say, quote, the risk of planetary insolvency looms unless we act decisively, end quote. Act how? Could you be specific? Because act decisively could mean what? Stand on one foot? I'm being decisive. I am decisively standing on one foot. I'm taking an act. It's decisive. I'm going to stand on one foot, and that's my act. That's the act I'm taking, okay? I'll tell you what acting decisively means, because they're never going to tell you what it means. You come on this channel, I'm going to tell you every single time what it means. We must decisively stop burning fossil fuels. Because already at 400 parts per million, we're headed for 10 degrees C above baseline, hothouse Earth. Everything on the planet dies. The whole surface of the planet is cooked like an oven. All right? Is that clear enough? Decisive action at this point means you stop burning fossil fuels absolutely right now and then take the hit. Oh, then I can't get to my job. You won't have a job to get to, Sparky. You won't have a job. Without fossil fuels, you don't have an employer. That doesn't mean you can't get to your employer. Your employer just dries up and blows away. You might even get to work somehow. You might get on your mule and ride into town. I'm going to go to work on my mule. And you show up and the place is closed because the economy is gone. So you don't need fossil fuels to get to your job. You don't need fossil fuels to get to the market. I mean, you might want to go to the market, but there won't be any food there. Well, why is that? You can't say something like that. The food is brought every night at 2 o'clock in the morning, when you're not watching, by 18-wheeler trucks and lorries, and they dump all this stuff into the store. Then the employees come to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, when you're not there, and they load all that stuff out of the boxes and off of the pallets onto the shelves when you're not there. And then you come in with your credit card and your smartphone and your shopping list, and you pull the things off the shelf, and every day it's the same story. And you have no visibility into any of that. So if we were to stop burning fossil fuels tomorrow, you wouldn't have a job. And you wouldn't be driving, and you wouldn't be flying, and we wouldn't be moving any goods or manufacturing anything. And there wouldn't be any money flowing through the system, and there wouldn't be any jobs anywhere. You know, it just all evaporates, because it's all made possible every time, all the time, by 100% application of cheap and available fossil fuels, which has gotten us to 430 parts per million, which is going to guarantee us basically 10 degrees C above a pre-industrial baseline, and we're fucked. Any questions? Yeah, that's us. And I don't mean the year 2100, and I don't mean the year 2050, and I don't mean the year 2040, and I don't mean anything much past the year 2030, which, according to my calendar, is like 4 years from now. Because that's how this works. And we're not having that conversation. And Julian Cribb is not having that conversation. The risk of planetary insolvency looms unless we act decisively. Exactly what planetary insolvency means is buried deep in the report. According to their table on page 32, the outlook for the world is already rated as catastrophic, according to the math people, with plus 2 degrees of global warming by 2050. No, by next week. They assess this will eliminate a quarter of the world economy, $25 trillion worth of GDP, and kill 2 billion people. 1 in 4 cause breakdown in Earth system services critical to sustaining life. Remember, that's this. These guys, the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, the math people, the insurance industry people. This is what they're saying. They write insurance policies for losses. This is their wheelhouse. You want to argue with me that I'm full of it? Go argue with the math people. Can you argue with math? I don't think so. You think you can. You can have an opinion about it, but you can't have your own math. Just like you can't have your own facts. The outlook for the world is already rated as catastrophic, with plus 2 degrees of global warming by 2050, 2030. They assess this will eliminate a quarter of the world economy, $25 trillion annually, kill 2 billion people, 1 in 4, cause breakdown in Earth system services critical to sustaining life, cause major extinction, and severely impair the world's oceanic circulation, according to the mathematicians who write the insurance policies to insure all this. And you wonder why I'm angry, and you wonder why I'm scared, and you wonder why I come on here once a week and rave like a lunatic? For humans, this means, We could talk about the animals too if we wanted to. Maybe we'll do that. For humans, this means severe socio-political fragmentation, low-lying regions lost, heat and water stress will drive billions from their homes, and an unparalleled mass migration. There will be wholesale deaths from disease, malnutrition, thirst, and war. Nowhere in this does it mention the complete collapse of civilization. Because you can't have heat and water stress and billions being driven from their homes without a complete collapse of civilization. The rules and agreements that we engage with every single day are the only thing that keep this thing working. The rule of law, contracts, delivery times, okay? When those things start to break down, when people cannot deliver on their contracts, when they cannot find fuel for their trucks, when they cannot harvest, when they cannot deliver the things they said they were going to deliver, when the shelves are empty, when people don't have water deliveries, when they don't have electricity delivery, when there's no food on the shelves, then the whole thing starts to break down because all of the promises cannot be kept. And we live in what's currently basically a JIT economy, a just in time. So it's worse than you think. Everything is just in time. Every single thing is just in time. The shelves at the store empty, and the truck shows up that night when you're not there to refill the shelves, just in time for you to show up tomorrow. And they'll tell you most of civilization, most of the people in civilization are 3 days away from complete chaos. If you can't get your food deliveries and your first responders coming to put out fires and for 72 hours and know those things work for you for 72 hours, civilization just implodes. So here we are, we're talking about, for humans, this means severe socio-political fragmentation, low-lying regions are lost, heat and water stress will drive billions from their homes, and an unparalleled mass migration. There will be wholesale deaths from disease, malnutrition, thirst, and more, and civilization will collapse in 72 hours. I added that part. However, that outlook is what is already on the way, or so we thought until the satellites revealed their latest shock. The actuaries rate this new outlook for planet Earth and humanity as extreme, meaning half the world economy, 50 trillion, not 27 trillion, 50 trillion, could evaporate. Half the human population will die, 4 billion, not 2. Earth's life support system will break down and extinctions reach record levels for large animals on land and in the sea. Governments will fail amid massive loss of capital and social identity. There will be frequent waves of mass deaths, according to new data, according to the new outlook. Record-breaking heat waves, food failures, and mass deaths have already begun with the 2026 Northern Hemisphere summer. That's us, right here, right now. Tropical storms have inflicted $82 billion in damage so far and are increasing at twice their former rate. Again, faster, sooner, worse. Sea level rises have quadrupled. Faster, sooner, worse. Ironically, the intense heat afflicting Europe, Asia, and North America has led to a massive increase in demand for electricity to run coolers and air conditioners. This is part of the acceleration we're seeing. As a result, the world fossil fuel sector is banking record profits while increasing the rate of world overheating. The world's 6 largest fossil fuel corporations expect to double their second quarter earnings to $45 billion and cream $147 billion over the full financial year, says Oxfam. I want to point something out to you. The fossil fuel corporations expect to double their second quarter earnings. They get that money from us. We're giving that money to them. And we don't have a choice. And they know that. And they can jack up the price of crude oil, the price of gasoline, the price of diesel. They can jack up the price of all those things. And they know that they can just make more money because we can't stop buying it. The fact that they can jack up the price of things and just keep doing that is proof that we are screwed. We can't survive without this. We know that. We'll pay it. And we'll pray for availability. We'll pay any price every single day that it's available. And we will absolutely lose our minds on the day when it's not available. I mean, that'll be like the final insult, right? First of all, you were charging me an arm and a leg just to fill up my tank, and then you just cut it off. Well, yes, and the real problems start when they cut it off, because you might hate the price, but you'll pay it because you don't have a choice. And then when it's not there, well, then you do have finally, you really do have a problem. And people think that the problem is the price. The problem is the availability. They cannot shut this off. They cannot stop delivering these fuels for people. They can't do it. It cannot be done. And people will buy it at any price. And that is now obvious. And of course, they're making record profits. Why not? That's market dynamics. That's capitalism. Sell it at the price that the public will bear. The public won't like it. Whatever. Fuck them. Sell it anyway. And they don't have a choice. They have to buy it. They have to pay for it. Because you do. Am I saying something wrong? Am I misstating the obvious here? The stark insanity of Hothouse Earth is that it is now more profitable for a handful of merciless corporates to stoke the furnace, accelerate global heating, and kill more people. Oh yeah, this is just stupid. This is just the silliest shit on the planet. Why would someone say something like this? The stark insanity of Hothouse Earth is that now more profitable for a handful of merciless corporates to stoke the furnace, accelerate global heating, and kill more people. Well, first of all, they're killing their customers, so I don't know how this sentence holds, okay? They're killing their customers. Plus, if enough people die in global heating, then the civilization implodes. And then they're selling into a vacuum. There's no demand. It's called demand destruction. When civilization collapses and there's no driving, no flying, no manufacturing, no delivery of goods, no financial system, and no jobs, when all that happens, then their product is useless. You can't eat it. You can't eat it, and it's not good for much except putting in motors and burning it. So without driving and flying in the airline industry and shipping and manufacturing, well, then they have no profit. So they don't actually make money by killing everybody. Killing everybody is a second-order effect. The 2 billion, the 4 billion, the 8 billion that are going to die because of global heating in Hothouse Earth is not part of their profit. It's part of their demise. And what this person is doing, what this Julian Cribb is doing, is he's trying to point the finger of blame at the corporations, that they aren't going to enjoy this, that they're doing this on purpose, that they're evil, and we should hate them and point the finger at them and drag them out of their beds at night. Look, if you want to do all those things, that's fine. But if you ever went to them, and this is the problem I have with this entire approach, if you ever went to them and said, stop it, you're changing the planet, stop it, they would come back to you and say, are you sure? You say, yes, absolutely. I can't stand Hothouse Earth. I can't stand the thought of it. We're all going to die, and all the animals and the oceans, and there won't be any food, and Hothouse Earth, and still stop it. Stop selling fossil fuels. You know? Well, the first thing you'll say is stop burning fossil fuels. And they'll tell you, oh, we don't burn fossil fuels. Why would we burn them? We sell them. That'd be like setting fire to money. We don't burn fossil fuels. We make them available. So what do you want us to do? Not make them available? Because we could do that too. We can't stop burning fossil fuels because we don't. Well, we could definitely make them not available. Is that what you want? And then most people would say, hold on. What is it we really want here? We want you to not make as much money. Oh, that's rich. Oh, that's going to save you from Hothouse Earth. They don't make as much money per barrel of crude oil or per gallon of fuel, so there you have the justice has been served. They're not making as much money, but you're still going to need to burn these things, and that's the real problem, isn't it? It's not that they want to kill everyone. Okay, fine, everyone's going to die, but that's not what they want. That's the side effect of their business. And what is their business? Their business is selling this stuff to you and me and the airline industry and the trucking firms and the farmers and the water purification plant and all of it. That's what they are doing. They're not burning fossil fuels. They're just getting rich from it. And if you don't want them to get rich, but they still have to provide the fossil fuels, oh, and cheaper would be nice. Okay, well, that doesn't solve your problem. Your problem is 430 parts per million. Okay, that's your fucking problem. And you did that. Driving your car, flying in the planes, and buying the things off the shelves, and manufacturing, and Amazon Prime, and iPhones, and laptop computers, and internet, and streaming software. This is you. You did this. And I did this, and she did that, and that guy did that, and the guy driving by in front of my house, he's doing it. And we can't stop. We can't stop. We can't stop. We don't dare stop. We can't possibly survive if we stop. We'll die. And then Hothouse Earth comes along and kills us anyway. And that's not the oil companies, it's us. We did this. And why can't Julian Cribb understand that? Because he clearly doesn't. Or he does, and he's lying. So which is it? Is he dumb? Is he as stupid as this paragraph implies? Is he really that stupid? Or is he lying to you? And trying to get you to look over here instead of looking at, well, what, the mirror? Return on capital must now be measured in blood, not dollars. Oh, God. Not helpful. I mean, it's very evocative, and it's very florid, and it's very inflammatory and incendiary, and it's very wrong. Or at least it doesn't matter. I don't care how capital makes its money. I don't care how the oil companies get profits. I only care about 430 parts per million and 10 degrees C, hothouse Earth. That's all I care about. Who's making money on the way? Everybody is making money on the way to hothouse Earth. Everybody. Everybody, everybody, everybody. Even the tiny infants born at the hospital to a loving mother and loving parents. They're in on it. And they're going to participate. And they're going to drive it up. It's going to be 430, then it's going to be 440, then it's going to be 500, then it's going to be 600, then it's going to be 750. That's how this is going, folks. Line go up. Okay? Line go up. Line go straight up. That's what's happening now. And that's not the fossil fuel industry unless you want to blame them for making these products available to people. Because that's what they do. And if you want to blame them for making these products available, then maybe you want to make them stop doing that. Except you don't. Neither does this guy. And he won't say that. He won't tell you he needs these fuels to survive. He's going to blame the oil companies and their profits. And this happens all the goddamn time in this argument space. The profits on oil are extreme and obscene, okay? Well, then maybe they should just stop delivering crude oil, because that is 430 parts per million is a thing. Hothouse Earth is a thing, 2 degrees C above of baseline, and then it's going to be 4, and then 4 billion people dead, and then 6 billion people dead, and these are all realities, and the actuaries are predicting it, and so we could stop that by not burning fossil fuels and just leave them in the ground, and then the profits would go away, and the oil companies would go away, and the coal companies and all the rest of it would go away, and you wouldn't have to worry about rich Arabs or rich Venezuelans or rich Americans, because they wouldn't have this crude oil anymore. They wouldn't have it. And then you could say, well, they're not rich anymore. Great. Now I feel better about myself. Okay, but you won't have gasoline and diesel, and you won't have food on the shelf. So what are you going to do? What are you really saying that you want to have happen? Because I know the one thing nobody wants to have happen is to not have fuel. They want to have fuel, but they don't want to have global heating. They want to have fuel, but they don't want record profits at the oil companies. They want to have fuel, but they don't want any changes to their lives, like are going to be caused by global heating. That's not how the world works, people. You're stupid. You're just a bunch of dumb fucks, as far as I'm concerned. You can't articulate what it is you want that doesn't involve more of the same. And that's what this guy's doing. He's a chimp. Or he understands the truth and he's lying to you. So pick which one you think it is. If the calculations of the Institute of Actuaries are borne out by 2030, then oil, gas, and coal companies will murder half of the human species, and they will do it with the approval and support of the most governments, including most consumers of fossil fuels. All consumers of fossil fuels. And the companies, the oil, gas, and coal companies, all they're doing is selling a product. They don't even burn the product. They don't even use the product. Why would coal companies burn coal? That's like burning money. They sell the coal to people who want to burn the coal. It's a service. It's a product. Why would oil companies burn oil? That's like burning money. Even the Arab countries that have all this oil, they don't want to burn the oil. They're going solar because they want to keep the oil so they can sell it because it makes money. Why burn the oil to have electricity and even have in their cars? They want nothing but solar panels. It's a sunny place, so that makes sense. They want nothing but solar panels and electric cars. They don't want to burn any oil because they want to keep it to sell it. That's how that works. The oil companies don't burn the oil. You do. And if it's not you, then it's the big 18-wheeler truck that delivers the food to the shelves at the supermarket that burns the oil on your behalf. I could almost stop this right now. Let me see if I can get through this quickly because obviously I'm ranting. Obviously I'm angry. I think maybe I've made my point, except I don't think I can make the point ever. No one will ever understand my point. It is too easy to blame the oil companies for this. Oh, and the governments, by the way. I mean, what would you want the government to do? Would you go to the government and say, stop global heating, stop the hothouse Earth by closing down the oil wells? Would you do that? Would you? Would you allow anyone else to do that? Or would you want them imprisoned and hanged and they're traitors to the species and domestic terrorists and get these people off the streets who want to end the availability of cheap and available gasoline and diesel? I need this for my life. I need this for my vacation. I need this to fly and manufactured goods delivered from China. Don't let these domestic terrorists change anything about fuels. And it has to be cheap. It has to be available. And I want it. And it has to be in my neighborhood. And I need it every day. And don't ever take it away from me. And don't talk about it. And that's the conversation we're going to get. If someone ever goes to the government and says, you have to shut these oil companies down, shut down the oil wells and leave it in the ground. If anyone ever does that, there's going to be protests in the streets to get rid of whoever said that. And that's how this works. It doesn't work another way. This kind of discussion of leave it in the ground cannot be allowed to happen. Cannot be allowed to happen. Let's see if I can get through this quickly. I'm getting tired of ranting, to be honest. And again, I am poking holes at Julian Cribb and this article. This article is pretty bad, to be honest. There's a lot to get upset about in here for someone like me. So, I am poking holes at this article. This is a bad example of the species of article I'm talking about. This is an egregious example of the kind of thing that climate activists do all the time. This is an egregious example. This is a terrible way to handle this project of getting people aware of what they're supposed to be thinking and doing and saying. This example is horrendous. This is the worst thing I have ever seen. I may not be able to get through it. It is bad. Let's see if I can. You can go look it up yourself. Let's see if I can get through this. Let me check to see if there's any comments in my live stream will be announced. Register for inclusion. Okay. Don't think I have to address any of these. Okay. Roger Hallam of Extinction Rebellion, 4 billion dead, will have open forum Tuesday, August the 18th. Yeah. Okay. Roger Hallam. I don't have a problem with Roger. He does an okay job, but he's like all activists. He won't actually call for what has to be done. He'll claim to be in rebellion, but he won't tell you that you have to stop driving and flying and ordering goods on Amazon and manufacturing things. And, he won't tell you that the proper price that reflects the harm, the proper price for a gallon of fuel for your personal car ought to be about $80 a gallon or 80 euros or 80 pounds, whatever you want to call it. Okay. That's the proper price. A gallon, $80 a gallon. It's the proper price for you to put fuel in your private car. And if you're rich enough to afford that, well, then I guess you're a 1 in a million, probably literally 1 in a million, who can then drive their private car. And that's fine, because that's not one person driving their private car where every gallon of fuel in the tank is worth $80. That's not going to be a problem. They'll have the roads all to themselves. And what are the rest of us doing? I don't know, growing food in our backyards, I guess. Yeah, whatever. But he won't do that. Roger Hallam won't do that. He'll have his thing on the 18th and he'll talk all this talk and he won't he won't get anywhere close to what I'm doing here. And what I'm doing here is science. We are 430 parts per million today, right now. And that by itself, current conditions is enough to drive us to hothouse Earth, 10 degrees C above pre-industrial baseline. Okay, he won't talk about that. He'll talk about the 4 billion dead. He'll point at the oil companies. I'm being mean, right? But this is what he's going to do. He's going to point at the oil companies. He's going to point at the governments. He's going to say, these people need to do something differently. And then he'll just tell all his people, you're doing fine. Keep subscribing to my channels. Keep coming to my talks. Keep buying my books. You're all fine. You're all doing the right thing. None of you are the problem. It's those filthy oil companies and their filthy lobbyists and their filthy bought and paid for politicians. It's all filthy, and it's all going to lead to the destruction of 4 billion people, according to the actuaries, and they're probably right. But it's not your fault. That's what he's going to do. Because everyone does that, except me. I don't do that. Because I'm doing science, okay? Climate, along with war in West Asia and growing trade tensions, is also causing a fresh spike in food price. World food prices, says the UN, around 645 million people are facing acute hunger, up from 61 million in 2019. People are going to die of starvation. Possibly before that, they die of dehydration, not enough water. Eventually, everybody dies. I mean, for certain values of the word everybody. I think we have a 99% die-off. Not 2 billion, not 4 billion, and not 8 billion. More than 8 billion. There's more than 8 billion people on the planet. So more than 8 billion people die. We will end up with 80 million people at best case scenario, 80 million people left on Earth. More likely 8 million, but 80 million, that's 1% of the current population. Yeah, 1%. Yeah, maybe. Maybe we could swing 80 million. And you're still going to get hothouse Earth. And that's your problem, isn't it? How many people can live underground? How many people can live in domed cities with massive air conditioning projects run by nuclear power plants? How many people? 8 million? 80,000? How many people can live in domed cities with massive air conditioners and escape the heat? Yeah, 1 million? 80 million is 1% of the current population. That may be optimistic. Living in domes powered by nuclear power plants. Yeah, that could be optimistic. 80 million? Yeah, that could be optimistic. 99% die off, people, from current conditions. Current conditions. Conditions right now today. 2026. Current conditions. Yeah, maybe 80 million people left from current conditions. When does that happen? I don't know. 15 years? Maybe 10? Maybe 12? Yeah, somewhere around there. A decade. Not two. Definitely not two. A decade. Or maybe 15 years. Actions urgently needed to head off a global climate catastrophe include. Now let's see how many of these come to. I haven't read this article, so we're in discovery mode here, okay? How many of these come down to leaving fossil fuels in the ground? Period. Full stop. Because that should be number one, by the way. And then once you've done number one, leave all fossil fuels in the ground. See what else you can do, which might be nothing. All you can do is just grow food in your backyard. I mean, without fossil fuels, everything else, solar panels, wind, electric cars, batteries, nuclear power, every child gets a pony. All those stuff may be simply impossible without fossil fuels. So if number one is leave fossil fuels in the ground, coal, oil, and natural gas, there may not be a number two. You see? Except plant food in your backyard. That's number two. Leave fossil fuels in the ground, plant your food in your backyard, no number three. That's a possibility. So let's look at this list. This is a list of, wow, it's a long list. I got two. I got two. End of list, right? He's got 12. So let's just go through the list quickly. I promise not to comment. I'm just going to go through the 12 points of what we need to do. Urgent, that's what he calls it. Actions urgently needed to head off global catastrophe. Not that you can do that. Current conditions are enough to give you hothouse Earth and end civilization probably by the year 2032 or so. Okay. But anyway, he thinks we can head this off. He thinks we're going to fix this. Number one, a global tax on greenhouse gas emissions and dirty energy. Number two, an accelerated shift to renewable energy worldwide. Number three, stronger East-West cooperation on energy and climate action. Number four, Phase out of all fossil fuels. That's close. Phase out, though. That's a wiggle word. Number 5, a shift to renewable food systems and away from agriculture. That basically means modern agriculture. So you can still have agriculture, you just can't have what? Modern agriculture, right? Hybridized plants, whatever. Number 6, a new, tougher global climate treaty reflecting current realities. Number 7, trade penalties for countries that refuse to help. Number 8, drastically improve the state of knowledge of the global climate crisis across all societies, companies, and nations. Number 9, shift to a circular world economy as quickly as possible. Number 10, modify the world diet to reduce carbon emissions from all sources, especially the soil. Number 11, a crash global tree planting program, so like a Manhattan Project, right? Tree planting program to increase carbon uptake and an end to logging of native forests. And number 12, criminal prosecution of politicians, corporations, and shareholders whose actions are costing humans lives. So, again, as predicted, nowhere in here do we see any mention of fossil fuels except buried in the middle, okay, where you're probably not going to be paying much attention. A phase out. Number 4, a phase out of all fossil fuels. Just to be clear here, how this word is used. The OPEC, when they weigh in on this, they use the word phase out. So the oil exporting Arab nations who are dependent 100% on their survival, selling oil to the rest of the world, they use the word phase out. Sit with that for a minute. Why do they use the word phase out? Because it's open-ended. Doesn't mean anything. Chronic smoker, 3 packs a day. I'm going to phase out my smoking. Okay, every so often, I'm going to smoke 1 less cigarette a day. 1 less cigarette a day. Every so often. Okay, so that's your best friend. You can say, well, how often? I don't know. Every so often, I'll smoke 1 less cigarette a day. And I'll phase out my cigarette consumption. Starting when? Well, eventually I'll start and then I'll phase it out. And so when are you going to end smoking cigarettes? Because we need a hard end time on this, right? We need a hard date when you're going to stop smoking cigarettes, because otherwise you just phase out and you just keep smoking cigarettes forever. Well, I don't really want an end date. I just want to phase it out. You see where this is going. For someone who doesn't intend to stop smoking cigarettes, a phase out is the perfect language to use. And the Arab countries that depend 100% for their survival are phasing out fossil fuel consumption. So number 4 is meaningless. Number 4 means absolutely nothing. It requires nothing. It says nothing. There's no beginning date. There's no end date. There's no zero. It's just going to phase out. And that's what the Arab nations claim they're going to do with fossil fuels. The Arab OPEC exporting nations are going to phase out fossil fuels. That's their wording. And here it is. Now, all of these 12 things probably made sense to you. You're like, yes. Phasing out fossil fuels. All of this. Tax on greenhouse gas emissions. Yes, please. Okay, that might affect you, by the way. You do emit greenhouse gases, don't you? You're emitting greenhouse gases for every forward foot of travel in your car, including your electric car. You're emitting greenhouse gases. So are you going to pay a tax on that? No. And if someone comes along and says, we're going to pass a tax on every foot of forward motion on automobiles and trucks, and it's going to drive up the price of food because the truckers are going to pass that tax on to consumers, and it's going to drive up the price of shipping, it's going to drive up the price of manufacturing, but we don't care. We're going to put a tax on every forward inch of travel using fossil fuels, okay? Because that's where the emissions come from. And every mile traveled in an airplane, the airline industry, they got to pay a tax on all those fossil fuel emissions. Every passenger is going to pay that tax, and it's going to have to be the real tax. It can't be some token 2 cents per ticket. It has to be enough to make it stop. That's the whole point of the tax. So we're just looking at number 1 and finding problems with this. You won't allow it. Well, I guarantee you won't allow it. You can say, oh, yeah, I'll pay a tax. Oh, fuck you will. Oh, no, you won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. You won't do it. You're not fooling me. I know you won't do it. You won't allow it to happen. Storm the Capitol, drag the politicians out into the streets, threaten to hang them. Okay, you're going to tax me for driving my car. I have freedoms. No way you're going to let that happen. No way, not a chance. As things stand, the world is racing headlong to disaster, led by its governments and largest corporations. Nope, led by consumer demand. There are no quick fixes, since the residence time of the major greenhouse gases in the atmosphere ranges from tens to thousands of years. That's a correct statement. The work of restoring a habitable Earth should have begun decades ago. Also correct. And every year it is postponed increases the scale of the damage and the mass deaths it will unleash. Correct, and it's worse than you think. At present, it must be clearly understood the fossil fuels industry is knowingly trading human lives for corporate profits. That is incorrect. It is a crime against humanity worse even than a war crime. Here's the crime against humanity. Driving, flying, manufacturing, shipping, and financial industry and jobs. That's the crime against humanity. Because all those things require fossil fuels, and all those things create carbon emissions, and all those things are contributing to the parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere, currently 430, and all those things are contributing to our destination, Hothouse Earth. That's the crime against humanity. He just said it's the corporations. You want to shut them down? You want to shut the corporations down? You want to shut down the oil corporations? Fine. Then you're going to leave the oil in the ground. Is that what you want? Because it isn't. You don't want that. You just want to shut them down. You want to tax them. You want no more profits. Okay, but they still have to pull the oil out of the ground, right? I mean, they're not leaving the oil in the ground, are they? Because that would be bad. We've just barely closed the Straits of Hormuz for, what is it now, 5 months? That's bad. Okay, people are worried. What's going to happen with the diesel and the petrol and the gasoline and the airline fuel, the jet fuel? People are starting to worry. We need to stop this war. We need to open the Straits of Hormuz. We're in big trouble. Okay, we're in big trouble. And that was just like a 15% reduction in fossil fuel availability. And now we're going to shut down the oil companies? I mean, that's kind of the project, right? We're going to shut down the oil companies and leave the fossil fuels in the ground because it's the oil companies that bring them out. Pump them out of the ground and get the coal out of the ground, okay? And so that's bad. We need to stop doing that. Leave it in the ground. That's what you want, right? You're going to shut down these companies and they leave it in the ground after that. Because you can't get it out of the ground. Governments can't get it out of the ground. We're just the customers. They're getting it out of the ground. So I have to stop doing that, right? That's what you want, right? You want them to leave it in the ground. Right? Yeah, the fuck you do. You're not fooling me. You're not fooling me one little tiny bit. You're not fooling me. You're just fooling yourself. I know what you want. I know exactly what you want. And you're going to get it. You're going to keep getting what it is you want until the end of the world. That's right. We're going to keep doing this. Hammer and tongs until the end of the world. There you go. And Julian Cribb is either dumb as a sack of busted hammers, or he knows that. He could have written this article completely differently. He wrote it the way he did, either because he's stupid as a stump, or he's lying to you. Because he knows. He knows what I know. He's not dumb. He's not going to tell you. And Roger Hallam is going to give his big speech. And Roger Hallam is not stupid, okay? He's not a dummy. He hangs out with people who get it, man. He hangs out with people who will tell you what I'll tell you, that 430 parts per million current conditions gets us 10 degrees C, according to the most recent science. And 10 degrees C is the end of the world. I mean, the actual rock. It's not certain that we won't have such a mass extinction that there will still be, large, important animals left on Earth. Okay, we'll have cockroaches and rats. Okay, fine. At 10 degrees C, at Hothouse Earth, we'll still have rats and cockroaches. Great, wonderful. Golf clap. Well done. All right. But you won't have bears, and you won't have koalas, and you won't have whales, and you won't have porpoises. And you won't have humans. Well done. We love the rats and the cockroaches. Nicely played, humanity. Nicely played, yes. We didn't kill all life on Earth. Well done. Brilliantly accomplished. And meanwhile, Sixth mass extinction. Nothing on the planet bigger than a cockroach. Well, rats are bigger than cockroaches. Nothing on the planet bigger than a rat. Let's look at the comments back here. What have we got? No more comments, so that's good. So that means I am done here. Thank you all for coming. I was savage. I was savage with Julian Cribb. And he's going to be angry with me, except I'm nobody. He'll never find out that I said this. And he'll do a rebuttal, and he'll write another article and castigate me for saying that he wasn't really calling James Hansen, the leading climate scientist, a guru. He didn't mean it that way. I'm misinterpreting it. Well, no. No, I'm not. I know how words work. And stop pointing at the oil companies. Not because I love the oil companies. Leave it in the ground. Destroy the oil companies. Fine. Charge yourself $80 a gallon for gasoline to start with. Fine. Go ahead and do that. Fine. Destroy the civilization. Destroy the global economy. Yeah, great first steps. But don't blame the oil companies, because they're making all that stuff possible. Let's stop there, shall we? Thanks for coming. Thanks for the comments. Sorry, Mr. Cribb, or Mr. Cribb follower. If you're watching this and you're all full of umbrage, yeah, go back and watch the video again, okay? Go back and read the article again. Try and line all this up for me. Make it make sense, okay? Just make it make sense. And I don't want to hear, well, we have to start somewhere. Well, we have to do something, because that's my point. Doing something is not the right thing. We need to do the thing now, folks, and we have to leave fossil fuels in the ground. That's the thing. Not something, not someday, not somehow. The thing is we must leave fossil fuels in the ground with absolute dispatch. Tomorrow. 30 years ago would have been better. 30 years ago would have been the right move. 70 is even better. We'd be golden if we did this 70 years ago. We'd have a very different economy. We'd be doing things very differently, and we wouldn't be staring at a hothouse Earth. And maybe we wouldn't have gone to the moon, but we probably still would have gone to the moon somehow, right? We still would have figured it out, but we wouldn't have had all this manufacturing and shipping shoelaces from China. We would no. We would have done something else. But now we're doing what we're doing, and now we're stuck. Life goes on. I got other things to do. It's going to get bad. It's going to get really bad. I don't know what to tell you. It's going to get bad in the next 3-4 months. You're going to get a taste for it. You are all going to get a taste for it. We're all going to get a taste for how we go from 8 billion to 80 million. We're going to get a taste for that. What can I say? All I can say is your challenge and my challenge and, our personal challenge is don't die. Yeah.